Nah, I can't do it.
Yeah, you know you can do it.
Yeah, because you're filming.
Yeah.
But if that was off, I'd be whipping your ass up and down the street.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Sean, and you're listening to Film Focus, a podcast where we chat shit about films, really. Today I'm joined again by my friend Ben.
Hello there, I'm Ben.
And Matthew.
Hello.
We're just going to start off, as we did last time, just talking about films we've seen. A film I saw recently, The Dark Crystal by Jim Henson.
Oh yeah. There was an old film, or was it a TV show?
No, I think it was a film.
Yeah, it's a film.
Yeah,
and
okay.
then there's
And
this
then the
new,
new one
is
Netflix
Netflix
one. Yeah,
But of course, Jim Henson's dead now. I don't know if he. Do you know? If you probably know this, but did his son direct it? The new one? Because his son used to direct like Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol. Is all directed by his son.
I think he did that. The
With, like,
R-rated
Melissa
puppet
McCarthy.
one with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
The joke was it was an R-rated puppet film. With
Oh,
Melissa McCarthy. The
yeah.
Happy Time Murders.
That was
Yeah.
The Happy Time
got
Murders.
really bad
It
reviews.
looks terrible.
Yeah.
I've seen it like pop up on my
Yeah,
Netflix after
yeah.
watching like The Dark Crystal. So.
Yeah. So how was that doc?
It's really dark for like a kids film. I was
Yeah,
surprised.
I heard people
It's
say
like, usually it's just like, oh, Kermit the Frog like
Yeah.
laughing about and flailing his arms, or Sesame Street just counting numbers. A lot of the designs are like kind of creepy as well for what you're used to with Jim Henson.
I saw in I just saw a trailer for it when going through Netflix, and I did think creatures looked really cool,
Yeah.
like high fantasy.
In my head, I get it mixed up with Labyrinth.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Is it
another
a
Jim
similar
Henson.
sort of
I've not
Yeah.
seen
thing?
Labyrinth.
Oh, okay.
No, but
I,
he did do it, didn't he?
I feel
Yeah.
because that actually has
Bowie.
people in, right? Like
Yeah.
your David
Does,
Bowie.
yeah.
And,
Goblin King.
Yeah, and I think the main girl is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but apart from that, it's like all puppet.
But in this one, yes, kind of this post-apocalyptic world where like these weird like creatures are like starving the rest of the population, get their power from like this dark crystal, and then there's like this other race of people. I didn't quite work out if they were. I assume they're dying out. There was this old guy at the beginning who kind of like fades away like Yoda does in like Return of the Jedi, and then there's like this actual race who's like, well, there's only maybe one of them left called Gelflings. The protagonist is one of these. He's told by like this guy fading away to go on like a quest, get some like dark crystal shard and put it in the crystal, and then like the crystal will become like a light crystal, generic high fantasy plotline.
Are there any humans in that, or is it just puppet?
No, you can tell some of the puppets are like
in
people
in costume?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think they do that with Labyrinth and stuff as well, where like
there's this weird big
there's a
hairy
really big
thing
guy,
in
isn't there?
Labyrinth. I've
Yeah,
not seen it, but
and even in the original Muppets, I don't know the names of any of them, but there's like one which is just like a giant hairy guy, and that's definitely
on Sesame Street Big Bird, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. Oh yeah, Big Bird. There's a guy. Yeah.
Big Bird is probably like the creepiest like design he's done. But
I think he died recently. The guy who played Big Bird for like
Really?
decades. Yeah.
it's like the guy that played Chewbacca.
Yeah, oh,
recently
yeah.
As well,
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's visually appealing. Well, I don't know, maybe not visually appealing, but interesting. Visually interesting. But the story's a bit kind of generic, to be honest. So I'd recommend it, but I wouldn't say like rush
Probably
to go
like
and
held
see
up
it.
by the fact that it has really nice.
It's
like,
impressive,
visual
just puppet stuff,
Yeah.
really.
When did it come out?
It was 80s, I think.
I thought so. That seems to be the peak of that kind of film.
I actually had a guest lecturer at university who was like the art director for it. He was an interesting guy. He'd worked on like the '89 Batman, and he did, I think it was Aliens. He did a James Cameron film, and he really didn't like James Cameron apparently.
Oh.
He just said like they'd start to like film something, and then James Cameron would change his mind about like what the whole set looked like or something, and then like keep on like giving him extra work. But yeah, he did a Dark Crystal, and I'm pretty sure he enjoyed working with Jim Henson, and I think Frank Oz might have co-directed it as well, actually.
Oh right.
Who's like
Is that another one of the Muppets guys?
yeah, he's actually Yoda and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, is he?
Yoda.
Yeah,
Oh.
and I think he did like Fozzie Bear and people
right.
like that. Yeah, so he did Muppet stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah, pretty good film. I also saw The Running Man. It's like an 80s Schwarzenegger film.
That is
Stone Cold classic.
wow, it's classic
Yeah, well,
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with the running.
It's based
man.
on a Stephen King
Oh, is
book
it?
though. So you wouldn't really think of
Yeah, that doesn't You don't
Yeah.
associate him with that sort of...
No, the book and the film are very different in
Alright.
tone.
Yeah, the
Wait,
film...
so what's the premise? What's the...
Well, it's another post-apocalyptic film.
Alright.
But more dystopian than
Yeah,
post-apocalyptic.
true.
There's not a specific apocalypse, it's just a horrible world.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like this game show called The Running Man, which is like the most popular TV thing in the world, I guess. And they basically just send like this guy... Does he have like a bomb on him or something?
I can't remember
Yeah,
in the film.
well-
It's been a while since I've seen...
He has like a...
I think I read the story more recently than I've seen the film, but that was
Yeah.
also a long time ago.
No, I think they put a bomb on Arnold Schwarzenegger because he's like slave worker kind of, and then he like escapes. He tries to go back to his. He becomes like an outlaw on the run, and then he tries to go back to like his apartment or his brother's apartment or something. But then there's like this woman living there now, and she's like, and he just takes her hostage.
Alright.
And then he basically is trying to like go to like some South American country, I think, with her as his hostage. But then she kind of like runs away, screams, and then like police people get him. I think, oh yeah, the game show host is basically watching this all happen. He's like, oh, I need him for like my running show. So
Alright.
he puts him on this show. I think they attach a bomb to him, and he has to like kind of go through this like wacky world where like these hitmen like try and kill him as he's just like the guy with a flamethrower.
So
and,
is it like a bit
jetpack.
Hunger Gamesy?
Yeah,
I guess
I'd
yeah.
say so. Yeah.
So the pitch of The Running Man is it's a TV show where people watch him fight a series of like themed supervillains.
It reminded me of like
it's
Metal Gear Solid or something, like the people he has to fight.
What, like the
There's-
bosses?
Yeah.
they're like bosses, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an ice hockey themed one.
It's like people with ice hockey trying to kill him.
One with a flamethrower. I think.
Flamethrower, a jetpack guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds quite wacky.
It is
It's
quite
pretty
wacky,
wacky.
yeah.
I think the beginning of the film's less wacky, maybe a
Yeah.
bit better, but it gets
Fair
pretty
Yeah,
wacky.
see, I forgot all about that stuff, and so I remember it now. Like I remember him working in the mine. I obviously remember all the Running
Oh,
Man
yeah.
section. That's the most
Yeah.
memorable bit.
And then at the end, like he gives the game show host his like comeuppance.
The book ends with a character played but very differently by Arnold Schwarzenegger hijacking a plane and flying it into the skyscraper where the game show company is based. That would definitely not happen in a modern adaptation.
No, that's probably a cooler ending than what happens. In the ending, he shoots the game show host into like the Running Man thing, I think, at the end.
Alright.
Although he's like killed all the assassins, so I don't know. It's not really much of a punishment. But, like, I don't know. It was kind of a fun watch, but definitely not essential. Viewing.
It's not one of the Schwarzenegger essentials.
No, no.
It's not up there with Terminator, Predator, or the last 15 minutes of Commando.
Is that just the way he shoots like
That's when
100
he,
people?
yeah, that's when he
He
loads
just-
up all his stuff, flies to like a warlord's island and just shoots up the place, and kills hundreds of people. Love it. To some sweet steel drums.
Well, speaking of Stephen King, we saw It Chapter 2,
Oh, yeah.
which I really liked.
Yeah, I really liked.
It's
Well, go
definitely
ahead.
very much like a part 2 film. Like, you can tell
Yeah.
at the end of the first one, it says, like, It Chapter 1, and everyone was like, oh, there's going to be a sequel. And it really shows. I rewatched the first one the day before I saw it, and it's like, there's a lot of, like...
The whole beginning's
like
like
the same
the gang
story.
getting back
Yeah.
together.
And there's a lot of, like, little references to stuff that happens in the when they were kids. I thought it was really good. Yeah, like...
I also did.
Yeah, like I was kind of worried because like the kids were like that was one of the big parts I enjoyed about the first. I thought it was like good child actors that were really funny,
Yeah.
had like good chemistry, and I was kind of worried at first that maybe like the adults might be like a bit less interesting.
Because I think was it like 80s
'Cause it's like-
TV
yeah,
show?
well, it's like
People
part of the
didn't like
charm.
the
Yeah.
adult bit. Or something
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
they didn't. No.
Oh, the 90s series.
Or was it
The
90s?
miniseries,
Yeah, the 90s
yeah.
miniseries.
Yeah, meant to be quite bad actually. Apparently.
Yeah, I've seen that. Well, I haven't seen it chapter 2 yet.
Yeah.
I've seen the 90s series, and
And the first.
You saw it part 1, right?
yes,
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
the
yeah.
first one. But yeah, the adult bit is weaker in the old series.
Yeah, you know they do a good job with the cast. Like I think we agree that Bill Hader is probably the standout.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean,
he-
he just kind of
He's like great casting.
he just kind of riffs a lot of the
Well, I
Yeah.
thought Finn Wolfhard was in the first one. Was the standout.
Oh right,
Oh, right,
yeah. It's
oh,
the
right,
same
yeah.
Bill Howard,
character
yeah, and
as
Bill Hader.
Richard
plays
Yeah,
Richards.
yeah,
Richard
no, I'd
Simmons,
say so
it's-
too. Yeah,
that's quite.
yeah.
I like that. That's good
And
consistency.
it's like definitely like good casting. It's like he has that
'Cause he
same
chose-
kind of
Finn
jokey
Wolfhard
actor.
shows him himself.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard said
Yeah.
like Bill Hader would be perfect.
I think a
for
lot of
this.
the child actors, like they
Yeah.
were asked who they'd want to play,
And also
I think
apparent-
most of them happened. So.
Yeah, and also I saw an interview with the director, and he said that he always thought from the beginning, like even from the first one, that James McAvoy would be a good Billy. I think that's his name. You know,
Yeah.
the one who's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with the stutter, and like
James McAvoy is
he's good in it.
Yeah, I can't go wrong with McAvoy.
Yeah. And like he
Jessica
doesn't
Chastain
stand
is
out
pretty
because
good
he's got
as
like
well.
less kind of memorable lines and stuff, but he still does a good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one, but he out of the kids, he was just quite a calm,
Yeah.
rational, sort of solid one, wasn't
Yeah.
he? So the lead.
He has the more kind of serious, like, yeah. No, really, I really enjoyed Chapter 2. Felt like they kind of turned up a bit of the horror a little bit more. Like
I preferred the horror in this
Yeah,
one.
like
I
that-
didn't like. Well, the first one had a lot of jump scares, which were kind of
Yeah.
and like there's a bit where like Pennywise like comes towards the screen and it kind of shakes. And,
Yeah.
Like, they reused that like 2 or 3 times.
in the first film, they
one.
do
It's
have
like,
that a few times, yeah.
But in
Oh,
this
well-
one, I didn't notice anything that was reused. Maybe there's something he turns into which is reused. I don't know, but like
A couple of the images of things he
but
transforms
it's not like the
into,
same
yeah.
image, like literally.
Yeah,
So-
and like there's bits in particular which really like seem quite like unexpectedly kind of like it reminds me of this was in the trailer, but the scene where they like talking to the old lady, and it like has this really like sinister like slow paced kind of moving vibe. It kind of reminded me almost of the sort of horror you see in like kind of Hereditary and sort of stuff, like slow burning.
That's
like,
good to hear.
Just
Without
Yeah.
spoiling anything, it is pretty cartoony as well.
Yeah,
like,
well, I think
it is Pennywise turning
Yeah.
into these weird.
I think it does a
things
good
and-
job
but,
of the
like,
tone though, because
Yeah,
it's like
I
it
did-
manages to be
I did.
genuinely unsettling, and then like
Yeah.
but still have like he's
Yeah.
a clown who like eats kids.
Most people, from what I've seen online, didn't really like this film that much.
Really?
Which, and critics,
Really?
I
The
think,
first one was
weren't
very
big-
popular.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the
First,
consensus.
People don't like it as much as the first. I know. Some
There's
people.
that. I think people maybe just being overly down on it because I thought the first was okay. I didn't think it was amazing, but I wouldn't say this is amazing either. But I think it's a really good film.
I'd have
I
a
think
hard time picking which one, but I thought they were both decent, very decent.
I'd have to
horror.
rewatch the first maybe, but
Yeah.
this one, there's like the casting was really good and like the characters kind of held the film together.
It was one of those. It wasn't a horror movie where you don't care about like the main character.
Yeah, I think if I didn't care about them, it
Yeah.
probably wouldn't be
Yeah.
a great film. But
They were all like quite likable and
yeah. Carrying on from the first, like it's visually pretty.
yeah, really
Nice
nicely
and,
really nice visuals. I think.
You can tell maybe they probably upped the budget.
I think so.
Some
Kind
of
of
the-
kind of seems like
some
it,
of the
yeah.
stuff.
And I think like serious credit goes to like Bill Skarsgård who plays Pennywise.
Oh yeah,
Because I really think that is like a modern classic horror performance. Like
because you were telling me like that weird eye thing he does.
yeah,
He
can
can
like
just do that
he can
on
make his eyes go
command,
like
yeah.
drift off to one
Yeah.
side. Like a load of the stuff he incorporated, like how like Pennywise is drooling in a lot of it. Apparently he just like decided like that would be a
Yeah.
weird freaky thing to do. His voice and just the way he moves, like I've seen him
Yeah.
describing the character as like, because obviously it's this like shape-shifting trans-dimensional entity.
Yeah.
But the thing I really think is a great performance of that thing of like, yeah, there's something wrong. It's like a weird
Yeah.
thing trying to have this image, and you notice that. Like,
Yeah,
so credit to Bill Skarsgård, definitely like
yeah.
great performance.
It's not the type of thing that could ruin his career either. It's like he's that guy because you
Yeah.
can't really recognize him. In,
Yeah,
like,
he's barely recognizable. Yeah.
But yeah, I do think there are some problems with it. Like the start is way too long and not very interesting.
Yeah, I would say that
The first half an hour maybe 20
Yeah.
minutes, half
That's
an
quite
hour.
a long film, isn't it?
yeah, it's like it's
Yeah.
almost 3 hours.
Almost 3
I think
yeah.
like you feel it in the beginning and then once you're into it, like
Yeah.
it can be
Yeah,
long.
I would say
fine,
the
but-
the issue, the first half an hour has a bit of
Because
an
it
issue
sets
with
up
pace.
all these like, because they're all split apart kind of thing. As
Oh,
a lot of
right.
these.
show their lives, like
Yeah, but like these
And then
story threads are never. They could never come back to them at all. It's like,
yeah,
why are
that's
you wasting
true.
our
That's
time?
true.
Like,
yeah.
and a lot of them are kind of corny, like abusive, like
Yeah,
partners.
I
and
felt
then
like
it's-
this isn't a spoiler, but it's like I felt it was quite forced the way they like to push in the fact of like like Jessica Chastain, like Bev, that's her name, trauma. How she's like married to this like rich guy who's quite abusive, but like it was so because it's like they had to give that information quickly, like one scene for this,
Yeah.
and it's just felt so like kind of forced. Like he comes home and she's gonna go back to Derry, and it's like, what are you doing? He explodes into anger, like almost rapes her, and then she like runs out.
It was
It's
very
like,
random.
okay,
out
that
of
was
the
very
blue.
like.
And then
sudden.
it's like if they'd expanded upon that maybe, but never brought
Yeah.
back to.
Well, maybe they just shouldn't have had that. It's just
Also
like
that.
yeah, just.
Like, the beginning's just kind of like ticking boxes, like they need to go back to Derry.
Yeah. Once they get back,
Yeah,
it
then it's
definitely
then it's
picks
good,
up.
but
Like, yeah.
and I can understand from story perspective, you kind of have to have reasons for them to go back, but it's not executed well.
Yeah, it feels like it's just a bit too drawn out.
But overall, I really liked it, and it was an enjoyable one to see in the cinema as well, I thought.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was a fun one. Like a lot of those like fun kind of jump scares where it's like, you know, they're coming and they like drag it out a bit. My favourite part is when there's just like the little girl talking to Pennywise, and it's kind of like the beginning of the first film where it's just this really drawn out thing, and you know it's going to end horrifically.
Other than that, me and Matthew, actually no, you and Ben have got a film that you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we both saw.
You Were Never Really Here.
Yes, directed by Lynn Ramsey.
Lynn Ramsey. You said she's a Scottish director.
She is.
I don't know anything about her as a person.
I've seen one other of her films. She did the film of a famous book called We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Oh, okay.
I've heard of that book.
I haven't seen that.
It's about a school shooter.
Okay.
So it's like this really slow building, like, and that film is really well done.
Oh, okay.
It's got Ezra Miller. You know, He plays the Flash in like the new, you know, even like the Justice League.
Oh.
That's not much of an endorsement of it.
You're
really
like, selling me.
Yeah.
Right
No, but he's good, and he's like, he's this kid with like some sort of serious personality disorder, and it's just really slow paced. You know, like something's gonna go horrific, and then it's like, he does this horrific thing at his school, and that's a good film. So yeah.
I know nothing about this one though.
So yeah, we had a little bit.
We
of a talk
talked
about
after we'd both seen it.
It's interesting because we agreed that it has a premise which could be done fairly generically.
Yeah, it could be a much more generic action thriller than it is. So Joaquin Phoenix is a troubled veteran. He tracks down missing girls.
From like sex rings and like that's like his height.
They don't go into detail about the mechanics of it. You just sort of work. They don't go into the detail about much.
No,
I'm sure we'll get onto that, but you have to work things out yourself. It's very there's not much exposition.
It expects you to kind of work out certain things about you.
So which a more typical film like that, I'm sure it would tell you a lot more about his background, about how this works.
Okay, are you saying that the fact that it does this is good then?
It's
or
different.
Are you saying
it's not good or bad.
It's not good or bad. It's just a very different film.
Okay.
So the idea of this guy going around with a hammer, a soldier going around with a hammer, smashing up paedophile rings, could be
like a generic,
very typical action film.
Yeah.
But Lynn Ramsey makes an art film out of that premise.
It's very
which
slow
makes it
paced.
A very unique experience.
Yeah, like it's very slow paced. We were saying how they barely show any of the violence.
No.
It's very kind of off camera.
Yeah. There is very brutal violence, but it's not focused on, it's not flashy in any way a lot of the time you see it.
A lot of the time it's the after effects.
Yeah, you see the consequences of it, and you see struggles like sort of out of center, out of frame.
Yeah, that's true. There's a point, this isn't a spoiler, where like he's like wrestling with a guy on the floor, and it's like you can't really see what's going on.
So the camera doesn't follow them, they're just on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? So it adds to the tension a bit, I would say.
Yeah, and there's a particularly great sequence with like security cameras where it's like he's breaking into a place and it's showing him kind of raiding this place, but it's all shown through like black and white like security camera footage. It's quite clever. I think we kind of agree on this, where it's like it's a good film, it's like well directed, got some nice atmosphere, and Joaquin's good, but it feels a bit short because it feels like there's not quite enough of a climax.
It's a bit too bare bones in terms of plot, I think.
Yeah, because it's very much like you say, more about just the feeling. Like it doesn't.
It's
not like this happens and this happens. It's kind of like you're just going along while.
It's about the character Joe, his name is. It's all about the performance, really, I suppose.
Yeah, there can be a lack of plot if like. Yeah, if it's done well enough. That's the thing. Most is, but it's like we are saying how it gets to what's basically like the third act, and this is no spoiler, but it just feels like there should be a point there where there's like a little more energy, where it should be like kicked up a bit. It's like now we're into like this, and it doesn't. It just kind of keeps going and then ends.
And that's another thing that differentiates it from a film you might expect with that premise. I think is the point potentially. If I had to give it a meaning, it's like a film about the worst possible ways to deal with trauma. He's seen some things as a soldier, as an FBI agent. You get these very brief glimpses of the traumas of his past. He's just finding missing girls and brutally battering their captors. But he's not a well man.
And he has a kind of masochistic thing, like he kind of like suffocates himself a bit with like plastic
Yeah,
bags. Like he does this thing
he
where
he calms himself by wrapping
putting a
plastic
bag around
his face.
Yeah.
It's all very troubling because there are
like he's clearly a very damaged person.
And that's the thing. There are these characters, these tough guys where they've experienced trauma and the violence is bubbling away under the surface, like Ryan Gosling in Drive, The Punisher. And you watch them and the violence comes and you're like, oh yeah, finally.
Yeah.
But you watch Joaquin Phoenix and you think, this man is just unwell. You should see a doctor, man. I don't want to see any action.
Yeah.
Just get
It's not
help.
even like cool, but like
it's not,
badass.
yeah.
It's just like, oh my god. Like,
Yeah. So I think it's a strong performance in that sense.
yeah, definitely.
Like you really feel for him and just I'm concerned about this guy as he's going around committing this
He
violence.
sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'd say like although I didn't love it, it's definitely worth watching.
Worth watching, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say that the critic reviews are really good. Like people do love it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it. Maybe some things were lost on me, but it's a very highly regarded
Joaquin
film.
Phoenix usually pretty good. Speaking of films that don't have any plots, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I'm sure we could talk about this for all day. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Matthew saw that recently.
So I think we're on a similar page here, where I felt that there just wasn't. It had some really good stuff. So Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, both great fun to watch.
Good performances,
like fun characters.
Yeah.
So that was fine. The direction visually, it had some like nice stuff as you'd expect, like Tarantino. It wasn't as like kind of in your face stylized, like
which I'm okay with because we're going to be talking about Tarantino's other films in a bit. Sometimes I feel he can go a bit too Tarantino. And
he relies too much on the kind of flashiness.
And
so that and I heard a lot of people describe it as a more mature film in that way, and I understand that, like, because it's like it's less like, oh yes, bam, look at all this, like, now like get your dopamine pumping because like this song fires up and you see like it's more like it's slow paced. That's not necessarily a problem, but I felt that, I don't know if you'd say the same, but there just wasn't quite enough for the characters to do. It felt a bit too meandering.
I feel especially for Margot Robbie's character.
Yes, very much.
She plays Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, Sharon Tate, it's gonna be something important. I couldn't even tell you what her story is.
Well, I know, yeah. Like, the thing is, all of her scenes really are just her like. It's all set in one day.
Yeah.
And so it's just her, like...
except for the end.
Except for the end.
Yeah.
But, like, it was... most of it's set, vast majority in one day.
Like
and so Sharon Tate's...
I did not know that.
Yeah, so Sharon Tate's bits are just her kind of going around town. Like, she goes shopping, she goes to see a movie,
film,
like, that she's in.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, quite like, okay,
goes to some
what's
party
really...
at, like, the Playboy house.
At the Playboy mansion. But it's, like, nothing significant really happens.
No.
It's just, like, showing her life. And it's like, well, do we really need to see all this? Like,
yeah.
And so then you've got Brad and Leo.
They're a great combo.
Well, I think the most entertaining scenes are when they're together.
Yeah, I think the film would have benefited by having more of that. Maybe a third of the film is when they all kind of split off.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that's true.
And then that kind of goes in two ways. Where I liked Brad Pitt's story, his little story that he had.
Yeah.
But the Leo story was kind of the Leo one went on way too long, and we saw too much of what was happening in his life.
In this day, he's for most of the film he's on set doing this like Western movie, and so like it has some fun scenes where he's like dressed in costume and he's like talking to like the other actors. Like there's this little girl.
There's a really good scene of a little girl.
Yeah, where they have a funny conversation about like she's like a serious like method actor and she's like telling him about like 8
the
craft,
years old or something. Yeah.
And so that's fun, but like I agree that very early on, so they have a few scenes together, Bradley, and then they split off and they kind of have their own thing. I think having them together more would have definitely benefited.
And then we could have just not had the Sharon Tate stuff and had just like Brad and Leo film.
Like, just more of a like more of a buddy thing.
But going back to that Leo on set thing, I think it got a bit too film within a film. It's just kind of showing them shoot a film in a film that you're watching. It's like, well, what's the point? It starts to get a bit more funny, I guess, where Leo fucks up his dialogue. And
it also, I found myself in a lot of points thinking, like, in a scene, like, with the Leo scenes, where I was like, oh, there's going to be a funny bit now, and it doesn't. Like, it kind of just, like, ends on a kind of more...
Yeah, I think Leo's performance at the end, like, without spoiling anything, gets really good, I think.
Yeah.
It's a bit more muted in the start. Well, apart from when they're together.
I don't know if this is just me being pessimistic, but it feels like, because it got really good reviews from a lot of critics. Part of me wondered if it was like maybe there was a lot more to it if you were like a fan of a lot of old classic cinema. Because, you know, Tarantino is very much like a film nerd, and he loves...
That's one reason I was, like,
he
excited
loves to
for
throw
it.
in, like, you know, all little references.
But I feel like the references didn't really add anything in this one.
Well, I mean, yeah, even if...
Not that they ever really
even
do in
I'm
these
sure there was
films,
lots of stuff
like,
that we didn't pick up on, but even had I noticed it, it feels like it's like, well, it's just kind of like Tarantino, like, I'm sure he had fun doing that, but it's just him kind of, like, being, like cinema's cool, isn't
Well,
it?
that's why I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big reason why I was very skeptical about it to
Yeah.
begin with. Like, a 3-hour film about Tarantino's favourite aspects of Hollywood in the late 60s. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm
it feels
skeptical.
a
It's
bit...
impressive what he did, just like shutting down large parts of LA just
Yeah.
to recreate.
And he definitely, like,
1960s or
definitely
whatever.
feels very, like, authentic, like,
Yeah,
historically. He's got
but-
like, proper, like...
It does kind of leaving you wonder why he did it other than his own fantasy or something. I
Yeah,
don't know,
it
like,
feels a bit kind of self-indulgent.
It's like, is there a whole film in there?
Yeah. Well, that's the
Um,
thing. It's like the premise. I think it's a really good setting. Like a really like.
Yeah.
And in LA, like with movie stars, that's potentially great. But like we said,
Yeah.
it just wasn't enough to do. Like.
That being said, I actually do like it though. I know, I think you're a bit less
Yeah.
on the.
I mean, I
liking it
definitely
side.
didn't think it was bad. I thought it was decent compared to Tarantino's other stuff. I found it a little disappointing.
There's also just famous actors that just pop up.
Yeah,
and
it
they
has a lot
don't
of little
really-
cameos. Yeah.
Don't really.
Because I remember when people were like talking about it when it was
like,
announced and the
Al
cast was
Pacino's
announced, everyone was
in
like, "Oh
it,
my god, look at this cast!"
and,
But
like-
most of them were in it for like a few minutes.
Yeah.
Like Al Pacino's in it for 5 minutes, maybe. Like,
And he's not even.
and
That
he
good
doesn't
in it,
even
really.
have that much like to do.
I did like Kurt Russell in it. Actually, speaking
Oh,
of
yeah,
Kurt Russell,
Kurt.
that brings like a weird aspect of the film. Is there's kind of narration in this film?
Yeah,
Like-
that's really weird.
Like at the start,
There's like a
there's
tiny
like one moment where you hear like a voiceover, and it's like back when Leo was doing this other thing 2 months or years
yeah,
ago.
like he
or
gives a
whatever.
brief
And
background.
you're like,
of
oh,
Leo's
okay, this is going to be a
character.
film with narration in.
Yeah,
And then that
And then
never
the-
happens until the
very-
last third of the film, where it's like all narration. It's like what? Like
yeah.
have like some consistency where it's like it's a narrated film,
Yeah.
like Goodfellas or something,
Yeah.
or just don't have it. Because
Yeah.
I feel in the third act, not spoiling anything, but like there was too much narration where it's like you missed all of this happen, and like and then this and this and this is gonna happen, and
Well,
this
the
is
third-
happening.
the-
It's
like
like
the
why
last
is there so
kind of
much
20
narration?
minutes or so of the film feel very different to the rest of it. It's like it becomes much more like comedic, and
Yeah.
it becomes more like dark Tarantino humor. Like there's some like
Comes like
ultra
more
violence.
what you expect from Tarantino.
Yeah, like kind of what you'd expect, but that's and for me it's like that's like kind of a bit of a payoff at the end. But I would have liked maybe like call me like small brain anti-Heath Ledger, but I would have liked just like a little bit more of that comedic stuff, or like
Yeah.
because all that explosive stuff happens in a very small amount of time at the end, and then the movie's over, and it's like okay.
I just would have preferred some like more consistency with, especially the narration.
Yeah,
And like how it's paced, because the narration changes the way the film's paced, where it's
yeah, and it certainly could be shorter. I'm not always I'm quite a person who quite often likes long
Yeah.
films, but I feel that an hour could
it's
be
a
cut
very
off, like
self-indulgent.
you were Matthew. You were a big fan
Tarantino
of
film.
The Hateful Eight.
yeah, and
Which
I
I
like
didn't like
the
so
Hateful
much,
Eight, which
and
is
Well,
I
slow.
maybe
long
now
films.
we should get into speaking about Tarantino's other films.
Yeah, maybe
'cause
it's good.
Go
segue.
ahead and give you a
Yeah.
Hateful Eight.
Well,
opinion,
I
but-
really like the Hateful Eight. I can understand why some people didn't like it as much as Django Unchained and stuff. Like I think Django and Inglourious Basterds are kind of much more easily have much more like iconic, memorable, like great like scenes.
Yeah.
But I did really like the kind of slow burn pace of it, and I thought it had some great dialogue, like the Hateful Eight. It's slow paced, but like unlike Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it had enough kind of tension that I felt like it kept me like interested, even though it's really long. It's like 3 hours, so I like that film.
Yeah, my opinion of that film is like my least favorite Tarantino.
Really,
film.
even
Really?
Yeah.
even
I've not seen Death Proof, which people usually would
I
say
think
is the
that's-
worst.
I'd be very surprised if that was.
Maybe it'd be my
If
favorite.
anyone said that was not the
Maybe I'll
least
watch
favorite.
it,
Maybe
I'll
yeah,
love
that will
But,
blow the others away.
But yeah, Hateful Eight is my least favorite because that is a film that felt long to me.
I agree. I didn't dislike it.
I did quite.
I haven't seen it
dislike
since it came
I'm not
out,
either,
but
but
I've seen
like
it.
it just felt way too similar to Reservoir Dogs and just not done as well.
Yeah.
like it's like
Yeah.
you
I
like
agree.
double the length and make it not as good.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like
I think it has some fun moments though, like the whole Samuel L. Jackson telling the story of like, you know, that really
Yeah.
drawn out thing of like the Civil War guy, the old racist general talking about his son and stuff.
again, I don't like his use of narration in that film as well.
Well, I was thinking about that
Well,
when
like-
you mentioned kind of narration in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I
Well,
think that's
there's
just maybe a
two
thing
scenes
that
where
bugs me.
Quentin
It's like
Tarantino
one.
Yeah,
does his
isn't
own-
it like
Yeah.
you get 2 hours in and then suddenly it's just like,
Well,
no,
he
what you
explained-
didn't know was that he poisoned the coffee. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He
And
does
then
like that
sucked
little.
his dingus, and it's like,
Yeah.
well,
While he was talking about black dicks and white mouths.
That's it. Yeah,
that's
that's
an
the
actual
line.
It's like, well, I
Yeah.
saw that happen, Tarantino. I don't need 15 minutes of you telling me what just happened. It's like an American like TV show.
Although
they have like 10 adverts,
Yeah,
and it's like
I
this
mean-
happened just now.
And it's like, you know, it's Tarantino's voice, is like, obviously, if you know anything about, and it's
Yeah.
like, but I have to say, I felt that if you're gonna force a cameo in, I preferred that narration to like him, like Django
Django
Unchained.
Unchained.
I really think his appearance there is terrible. Like,
Okay, yeah, well, his appearance
is.
in
he
Django
has like
is
one
terrible.
line in a terrible.
It
like,
depends how you feel about that use of narration. I
Yeah.
can understand. He's like it's a much worse. It's a really bad
I'm not going to
performance
deny his performance
in
was worse
Django
than
Unchained,
Django,
but
yeah.
I think you could
It's less
argue
noticeable.
it's if you're not a fan of Quentin Tarantino, I think you would find The Hateful Eight to be a much more obnoxious cameo.
Probably,
than
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Django is like one of my favourite Tarantino films
Yeah.
where it has a good story, it's like visually appealing, which is like a big Tarantino thing, so...
yeah,
And he uses that well in that one. for
Actually,
me.
you know, Django Unchained is like an amazing looking film. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it's also,
And then maybe
great soundtrack.
great
Yeah.
soundtrack,
yeah,
good performances.
really great like
Leo's
like,
very good in that
cathartic
film.
like
Violence.
violence.
The violence
Yeah.
is earned and very good.
Yeah.
And it's just
It's a good
funny,
climax.
like sometimes in Tarantino films it can be a bit over the top, I think, like in Kill Bill. But in like Django, it is over the top, no doubt about it. But it's funny just when like that guy goes like flying from that gunshot. It's like,
Yeah.
it makes no sense, but
Yeah.
that's like Tarantino using his little weird things
Yeah.
in
yeah.
like a way that works, but for
Yeah.
me anyway. And then I also just really like spaghetti westerns, so
Yeah.
that appeals to me. And then I think that's the reason why I don't like Hateful Eight as well. Is because it's like a western, but
What, you're like disappointed? You wanted more westerny.
I think the whole film was disappointing. Like
Yeah.
the fact that it was retreading
One thing I will
Reservoir Dogs and long, and then it was a western,
Yeah.
but not a good one. I was like,
And
oh,
this isn't
but-
necessarily a sign of it like being better because like I watched it in the cinema and I think The Hateful Eight was a great like cinema
I
experience.
think I saw it
like
with you.
big
yeah.
screen, like yeah.
But-
I feel like rewatching it, I probably wouldn't like it as much as Django, just because Django is more like immediately entertaining. Like it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot more
Yeah.
energy to
Like
it.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
is good in
Yeah,
that,
and it's got way more memorable lines. Like
Yeah.
I could name you hardly any lines from The Hateful Eight, but
Yeah.
Django Unchained has loads. Of
Yeah,
them.
I also really like Inglourious Bastards. That's like another Tarantino film.
Yeah,
which
that's a
I
great
think
one.
It's very similar to Django, and like it has like its kind
Yeah,
of
actually, it feels quite similar because it's like
has like another time period kind of.
yeah,
film.
and it's one of those things like Django where it's a very kind of like the setting and like the context is quite serious, like you know like
Yeah.
Nazis occupied like slavery, but then it's like he kind of has that when he manages to like put his weird like twist on it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the ending is obviously famous now. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
killing Hitler. Which apparently he did that because he couldn't think of an ending, and then he's like going to bed and he's sort of like kill Hitler, and he woke up and was like, oh, I'll just do that then. It's like, why not?
Yeah,
But,
yeah. No, apparently he hadn't planned for
No,
that.
yeah. The opening scene of that film is like
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
one of the best.
That's like
what
a
I was about to say.
masterclass.
Aside from the snappiness and the energy of Inglourious Bastards, it's very tense in multiple scenes.
Yeah.
The bar
The
scene as
opening
well.
scene and the bar scene.
Weird, like any of like towards the end when like Hans Lander's talking to any of them.
Yeah,
It's like
you never know
it
what's
does have a
gonna
really
happen.
good sense of tension.
Yeah.
Because you could, on paper, it might sound bad, like, oh, Tarantino's going to tackle, like, World War II. Like,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. To be honest, it's amazing he pulled it off.
I know, yeah.
To like balance like ridiculous violence with like a serious subject about like Jews on the run and like
Yeah.
it's
One
like
thing that he didn't tackle as well in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is, like, the advertisements like, oh, the Charles Manson murders, like,
yeah.
it's all going to be about that. And
Yeah, actually, you know what? If we could briefly go back to that, because I was thinking about how when it was talked about before it came out, everyone was like, this is set in the 60s around the time of Manson. It's going to be like, oh, it's going to be his Manson story, and it's going to be like...
there was a big deal made
Yeah,
about
and
that,
it's
yeah.
and really, he's basically nothing to do with it. He
Yeah.
basically has nothing to do with it. even though there's like a vague bit of connection, it's like it's really not about that. It's about just like these guys in Hollywood. I thought that maybe that was like they had played that up to maybe appeal to like the public a bit more, like ooh, Manson and stuff.
Well, also with Sharon Tate being one of the main characters.
Yeah.
If you had to list things that you associate Sharon Tate with,
Being
the big
murdered
one is
Polanski,
and being
number 2,
yeah.
and then Charles Manson.
yeah.
That was him not really tackling
Well, I think,
kind of a serious topic as well as like Inglourious
yeah, well, I
Basterds,
wondered,
where-
you know, I did actually wonder if perhaps he had originally
Well, there's
done
something-
more with that, but it was like, just thought it was a bit too sensitive.
Well, there's something I'll ask you to. You know, I haven't seen it. Is there a point to using Sharon Tate? Could
No.
that character have been a fictional actress?
Well,
could have just not been in the film. Like there's,
So even if she wasn't Sharon Tate, this character
no, but-
would
it would
still
not
be...
have added. She've added less
she
probably,
kind of,
but like
is important to like what she represents, but like you could have done it with a fictional character. I feel like doing it with Sharon Tate was probably like an intentional like red herring.
yes.
Oh, this is gonna, you know how this is gonna end? Wink, wink. And it's like, well, is it though? Like, it's a Tarantino film, you know.
Could have just not been in the film really.
Yeah,
And, like,
but I mean, I'd heard that they had shot more footage with Manson himself.
Yeah, the
guy,
actor
the guy who
said,
plays
yeah.
Manson literally has one line. He's like, does somebody live here? And they're like, no. And he's like, all right, you have a pleasant day, and that's
Just
it.
walks
And that's
away.
like all he said.
Yeah.
So I wondered if maybe
it's like
there
a
w-
blink and you miss it.
yeah,
kind
maybe
of
there was. I
thing,
wondered if
but-
there was more that they had maybe decided like it's not relevant. We don't need it. Like
Going back to Inglourious Basterds though,
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely one of my favourites because he basically like discovered Christoph Waltz as well, didn't he?
yeah,
Well,
was
to,
gonna say,
to like
it's
the
a-
American
it's-
audience.
Yeah,
anyway, but-
it's
yeah.
like I'm very glad that introduced Christoph Waltz to
Yeah.
And he's really the star
An
of that
English-speaking
film,
audience.
isn't he? Like, even though he's not like
Yeah,
the good guy,
yeah.
he's like the one. It's like this is who the actor you're watching it for, like this performance.
That's one good thing about Tarantino is like he's good at like kind of sussing out actors
Yeah.
and then because his films are very like actor centric.
Yeah,
And, like,
Yeah,
before
you-
he shoots anything, like he sits down and like makes them watch films with him. and
definitely. Yeah,
A lot of people like Walton Goggins and stuff, like mainly on like TV shows like Justified, which I watched before
Yeah.
Django probably, but then he kind of
yeah. He's quite good at like kind of picking up like fairly unknown small actors and
Yeah.
getting them really good parts.
well he basically brought back John Travolta as well.
Yeah,
Like
that's
Pulp
true, isn't it?
Fiction,
Yeah, his
so-
career had kind of like, and also he kind
star
of,
of
I mean,
Gotti.
and he also kind of like made Samuel L. Jackson's career. Samuel L. Jackson had appeared in stuff,
Yeah.
but really that was his first big like major
Well,
like
Pulp Fiction.
starring role. Yeah,
Mm.
because he was in like Jurassic Park as like a scientist.
Was that
Don't know if
before?
you remember.
Jurassic
I do
Park
remember
after.
that.
That was before Pulp Fiction.
Was it?
It was like
Yeah.
a year before though, right? I think.
I don't know.
93
it was
was
like
Jurassic
93.
Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright.
But
that's-
so like yeah, he definitely has a knack for discovering good actors.
Yeah.
Don't think you can fault him for his casting. Honestly though, in terms of my favourite, I'd have to say I haven't seen it in a while. Again, like a lot of his stuff, but the one to me that just felt like the smoothest and the well paced is still Reservoir Dogs. I think.
I agree. That's
Yeah.
my
That's-
favourite.
Because it's
up
just
there.
like it's
Yeah.
it's just well done. It's like there's no fat. It's like a really
No.
perfect crime film. I think.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I really like Reservoir Dogs.
and like great soundtrack, like, and it's a bit less like when you compare it to stuff like Pulp Fiction and stuff. When we were talking about like
Yeah.
a bit flashy, it's not really that.
Well, I think
Like
the
it-
budget probably
Yeah,
I think it
was
worked in his
to-
favour.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's like no Tarantino. You can't have a bar just dedicated to like some 50s
yeah.
bullshit. Like,
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
But well, obviously, when Reservoir Dogs got traction, he was probably given more leeway with budgets and stuff.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
in Reservoir Dogs, like it's set in this like warehouse, and there's a few other
Yeah.
scenes really.
a heist film where you don't see the heist.
Heist,
It's
yeah.
quite,
Yeah, you know what?
quite
That's, and
inventive.
I didn't think about that, but that's quite a clever premise.
It is, yeah.
Because you hear about before, like you see the characters before, and obviously you see after,
Mm.
and they talk about it, but you never see any of the stuff that actually goes on.
No.
Yeah.
And it does a good job of because like different people's accounts, so like makes it confusing.
Yeah,
It's
the
like
characters
when-
describe it.
When they're
and
talking
you-
about Mr. Blonde, how he just like
Yeah,
started
excuse the
shooting
hostage,
people.
yeah.
Well, you didn't see that, so it's
Who's the
interesting.
one that you don't even really see that much?
Mr. Blue
Mr.
is
Blue.
the one who is
Oh.
at the diner at the beginning when they're having
The old
breakfast.
guy.
The old
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
and then you'd never find out what happens to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
but
I think is cool because like you're like, oh, what happened to him? And like
yeah,
you
and
never
that's
know.
the thing. Like
but,
watching
yeah.
that film for the first time, like you have no idea really who's gonna survive.
No, it has a good ending. Yeah,
You don't
as
know
well.
what's going on. Like yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say for me that's still his kind of like just all round like a really tight film, that would probably be
Yeah. Well, the four that I always think are like the ones that I like are Reservoir Dogs, as we've said, Django, Inglourious Bastards, and then I do like Pulp Fiction quite a bit as well. I think that one, that and Kill Bill probably is most like Tarantino films.
Yeah,
where it's like they're a bit wacky and weird. But
I haven't seen Kill Bill. What's your opinion on that?
I
like both of them.
I like 2 better.
Okay.
Because
2's a lot slower.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. The problem I got with 1 is like it's just too Tarantino for me.
So?
Where it's too over the top. The dialogue I find pretty cringy in it.
I think it works with the subject matter.
It's just like the stuff about like the pussy wagon and stuff. It's
it's certainly more like corny, isn't it? Like intentionally, it's an over the top kind of.
There's some cool like anime.
There's an anime sequence which I think is really well done. The martial arts stuff is pretty impressive, but it's kind of like I didn't really connect to anything in that film. I don't know. Maybe that's the main problem. I think there's more substance in the second one.
Yeah, the second
first
one...
the first volume, as it's called.
Yeah.
Is that's a very violent, fast-paced.
Yeah, in the second one, it's she only ever fights Bill.
No, she fights.
Oh, she does fight other people. Sorry.
Elle Driver.
Yeah.
The one with the assassin with the eye patch.
Yeah, but she doesn't. In the first one, she kills like a ton
There's a
of
lot
people.
Of killing in the first.
Whereas like the second one is more like a. I think he calls them both revenge films. I guess. I think he was inspired by like westerns.
The second one definitely.
The first one's like very like Japanese
Chinese
samurai.
really,
Oh, yeah.
because it's kung fu based, isn't it? It's mainly influenced by Hong Kong kung fu.
It's influenced by those films, but set in.
Is it set in Japan?
Yeah.
I knew that.
Or at least the most memorable action is.
Yeah.
Like is that the scene where she's fighting like hundreds?
Yeah.
Like that's clearly it's interesting because that in like kind of like Inglourious Bastards and Django is like clearly like a genre film. It's like I'm gonna make like a kung fu movie, but it's gonna be like my Tarantino-y one, so it subverts a bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of similar to like Inglourious Bastards and stuff, where taking a genre he hasn't done, it's like putting his own little unique thing on it.
I'm not too big on Kill Bill really.
Yeah, I've heard very mixed things. Like some people love it, some people really don't like it. It seems to be quite one of his more divisive ones.
But whenever I watch like Pulp Fiction, I enjoy it. I think it has like great dialogue
and like an amazing soundtrack.
Quite a good cast. Well, a good cast. Yeah. I think you gain something from that film every time you watch it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Pulp Fiction.
I think if it was not like out of sequence, it'd probably be a pretty okay film.
Yeah, well, people.
If it like narratively like happened.
I know that people
have.
Some people have. I've heard they've recut it and like chronological, but that just wouldn't work.
It's like Memento. People did that with that apparently, and it's just really boring.
Yeah, but it's like.
Why would you do that? I can understand doing that with Pulp Fiction because I would be quite curious to see how it works in chronological.
Yeah, well, he wrote it in chronological.
Oh, did he?
So, which makes sense.
Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like it would feel weird because it's like it
would feel weird because we're familiar with the actual film. It'd feel different because it might have an actual climax.
Yeah, that's true.
So presumably, it's been a while since I've seen it. Presumably, the final scene would be Bruce Willis driving off
just after he's like rescued Marcellus.
Yeah. Which would be makes it feel more like an ending.
It would be like the Zed's dead thing, isn't that? Wouldn't that be his like last line as he's driving off of the bike?
Also,
because in the film, I think I'm remembering this in the original. The last scene is Jules and Vincent in the diner.
Yeah.
And then they like stop the robbery.
I like that
Jules
ending.
talks
like
down
the Tim Roth.
robbers. Tim Roth.
Actually, it has the one Tarantino performance I'm okay with as well.
Oh yeah, Jimmy. I think that's his best.
Basically, because it's just him.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I think that's his best use of himself.
Yeah.
Just like a weird guy in a dressing gown.
But yeah, no, Tarantino is definitely a strange guy. Which he either makes films I really like or don't like. Or like, the few that I'm lukewarm on, like
I don't worship him. Like there's some people really are like, oh my god, he's like
I'm not saying like a Tarantino bro sort of guy, but he's done a lot of very good films. I love Reservoir Dogs. Generally, it's one of my favourite films.
I think Jackie Brown's underrated actually.
I haven't even seen Jackie Brown.
Yeah,
he's not.
No,
some people I can see wouldn't like it because it's very like we're talking when he does genre films. That is a
Yeah.
genre film. He's doing like black
Yeah.
exploitation, and it is.
And people say
long,
that's a lot like similar
but-
to what we were saying with Reservoir Dogs. It's less kind of flashy and like.
Oh yeah, I think it's his least. You're saying that's his least Tarantino film. I'd probably say Jackie Brown is his least.
Yeah. No, I've heard people say
Tarantino
that.
film. I've only seen it the once, but had a good story, and like Robert De Niro and stuff are really good in it. And
I always forget he's in it.
yeah, good one.
But yeah, overall Tarantino, I quite like him, but I was disappointed by. I was a bit disappointed by
see
Once
that.
Upon a
I
Time in
was-
Hollywood.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
It wasn't one I was in a hurry to see. I'll watch it
Yeah.
at some point.
Watch it when it comes out on Netflix or whatever, probably. Yeah.
Honourable mention, True Romance.
Oh yeah,
which
True
he
Romance.
wrote, but did not direct.
I think that's got his best story.
I
Maybe.
like True Romance
Yeah.
a lot. A fairy tale crime film.
Yeah.
Like, it's got...
I think he based. Well, I know it's very different to reality, but he based it a lot on himself. I think is what he said. Like kind of the comic story.
Well, I can
like,
imagine. I can. Yeah, Clarence.
Well,
the
he's in
Christian
it, isn't he?
Slater.
Oh no, he's not.
No,
Okay.
but
Tarantino.
there's one of the main characters, Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Tarantino being very similar to
Yeah.
Clarence Worley.
Yeah.
The way he works in the comic shop, he goes to these late night kung fu film
Yeah,
marathons,
yeah.
and then gets wrapped up in a crime story. But yeah, that makes a lot
Good
of
one.
sense.
Yeah.
I like True Romance. I think it's
What about Natural
very
Born
fun.
Killers? Have you seen that?
I have seen Natural Born Killers.
It's not as good.
I don't.
but,
It's I
pretty
don't know about
flashy
Natural
and,
Born Killers.
um,
yeah, I think
yeah.
I'd like if it was less flashy. It's a
Yeah.
bit too weird and it's almost stupid. Like some of the things that happen.
I enjoyed it, but I did think it's not amazing. Yeah.
There is one scene in that I really like when it's just an abusive household shot as a sitcom.
Oh yeah,
Do you
yeah.
know
I
about
really
that?
like that.
So
bit,
it's
yeah,
an abusive father.
Just like a laugh track.
Threatening
It's
to
like
beat his
Rodney
wife and daughter.
Dangerfield.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
Threatening
yeah.
to beat his wife and daughter with a laugh track playing.
Yeah.
I really like that scene. I think that's
Yeah.
really good. But the film itself is a bit.
Like Robert
Yeah.
Downey Jr.'s in that, and
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
for some reason he chose to do an Australian accent, and I was trying to read up like, oh, maybe it's based on like
Kirk Lazarus.
a person.
Kirk Lazarus.
His
And
character from John McDonald.
And I was like, there's no reason why he did an Australian accent. I was like, it's just bad. Like I don't know. Yeah, it's like why Tarantino chose to do it in Django. Who knows? I think because he's saying he's only going to make one more film as well.
Yeah, he has been saying that.
Which apparently he's not counting his Star Trek film, which I can't see happening personally. But
I'm very curious about that, but yeah, I don't know.
It does
Can't
seem
see it materialising.
strange, doesn't it?
Also,
Like
he said
Tarantino doing a Star.
he said it's going to be Pulp Fiction in space, and it's like what? Like it's going to be like Samuel L. Jackson, like Spock is like listening to
I
like
don't know about that.
Stuck in the Middle with You or something.
Just like surf rock playing while like a spaceship just like pulls up and like Samuel L. Jackson painted blue. So.
Because like he said, he's like, oh, I'm not going to stick to like a lot of Star Trek stuff. So it's like,
I mean, I can't imagine him
No, yeah.
sticking to like.
Why
it's
doesn't
like
he just do his own thing?
Yeah.
Why-
I don't know
Do we
what
just-
the fan base is for. Because like
I don't know what their
Tarantino film
opinion is.
fans aren't going to be like, oh yeah. And
Yeah.
then Star
So
Trek fans are
who
obviously
is
going to
this?
hate
Who's
it,
the audience
so-
for this?
Yeah, because it won't please. It definitely won't please Star Trek fans if it's going to be completely different.
And then
like-
Tarantino fans will be like, oh, I wish you just made another
An
film.
original.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing is, he says this 10 film thing about it's going to be his last,
Yeah.
but he does say that like that's not including like TV. Like he said he might do
Yeah,
TV.
I
Or is he
think-
gonna do a David Fincher style?
Maybe.
I think
TV
he should, because like, there's no way he can sit still and just like,
I mean, a guy like that, surely, yeah.
he's so obsessed with
He's,
film.
he said he like has like he wants to write and stuff. I think he
Yeah, I
wants
think
to write
he
a book,
could
and I think
just write films as
Yeah.
well. He'd probably be, well, it could.
I'm sure he could
good or
work.
bad,
He'll
but,
find
yeah.
something to do even if it's not directing.
Yeah.
He'll write a movie. Or
Yeah.
He'll.
He's been saying there's been rumours of like they're making a series of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like,
Yeah, I heard this. So I didn't see this, but in
Brad
on
Pitt
the US
said something
Netflix,
like that,
they
I
have the
don't
Hateful Eight broken up into episodes. Did you know about this?
I don't know.
Yeah, they
is
have
it
there's
different?
It's
or
an extended.
Yeah, so it's got like
extended.
so it's got like
And it's
I
in,
think,
what,
I think
5
like half an hour
episodes?
extra, and it's like 5 half-an-hour things. Apparently, yeah. So it's like the same thing but split up, and I'd be interested to see that because maybe it will work
Would you think
better.
it would be the film split up again? Or?
Yeah, but
Oh,
also
okay.
maybe with extra footage. But I would be curious to see that because, like, seeing if it's broken up into episodes, does it flow better? Does it have more of a like?
I don't know.
Be
It
interesting.
is strange.
I'd love to watch it just to see.
I'd like to see the Yeah, the Hateful Eight
Yeah.
miniseries. I was
Maybe I
surprised.
like it more.
I was surprised they didn't do that globally on Netflix. Maybe
Yeah,
it's a
it's only
distribution
US
rights thing.
Netflix,
Because that would be
yeah.
a good thing. That's like a big.
That
That's a
would be
Netflix
big thing.
exclusive.
Yeah.
so,
But it's only on American Netflix, so maybe it'll make its way.
I mean,
globally
the
one
extended
day.
version of that doesn't sound appealing to me because I thought it was too long.
I thought it was too long and it's like half
I
an
know,
hour.
well, sometimes.
But maybe that would add
sometimes-
more to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, when a film's already that long, I quite like extended versions because it's like it's very long and indulgent already. Just keep going, you know.
Just give us everything.
Just give it, yeah. Like there's this director's cut of Midsummer
Oh yeah.
that's coming
Oh,
out,
right.
That's
which
like
is already
half an hour
quite a long.
extra.
It's already a long, slow film.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly happy to have another half an hour. Just
Yeah. I'd
Yeah.
be for
go all out,
that. Why not?
like over 3
10
hours.
hours, mate. That's
I'll
what I
take it
want.
all. I'll take the lot.
One thing I respect about him is like he's kind of one of the few directors that kind of just does
What he wants,
he does
yeah.
what he wants and makes films that aren't just like the next Marvel film or
Yeah, that's the thing.
You
you've
know a
gotta-
Tarantino film when you see one.
yeah. There's
He's-
not many
he's a
directors
very-
that get that.
He is an auteur, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
there's
like-
there's
yeah,
few
that-
auteurs about, and he's
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
one of the ones.
The fact that his films aren't easily categorizable,
Yeah,
categorical.
other than Tarantino.
Yeah, but like, you know, his films are like, you might not love them, but like they're certainly unique.
Yeah.
Like they're their own thing.
Yeah.
And he doesn't back down to
He's
what
not
people.
afraid of doing like controversial stuff, which I like.
Yeah.
This is like,
And like people question him on his violence, and then he's like, "Well, I just, it's
He has
fun
the
to
best-
watch,
So much fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has the best response because he's like the only one willing to
Yeah.
say like, yeah, it's fun. Violence in film is fun because it is.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then there was an interview recently, I think, about Sharon Tate in it, when they were like, the interview was like, "Oh yeah, she's not really that consequential to it." It's like, why do you use it? And he's like, I fundamentally disagree with your hypothesis or something like that. He just like shuts the person down. Like, so he's not afraid to do what he wants.
there's something to be respected, definitely.
He doesn't make films just to please people, I guess. I mean, he knows. You know what you're gonna get. Makes them because he wants to.
And I
yeah.
think there's something to be said with like people say, it's like a bit of style over substance and stuff, and like that to a degree that is true. But it's like
I think it varies throughout his films where like
Yeah.
that works,
Yeah.
and then sometimes it doesn't work.
exactly,
So,
yeah. And also like, but he knows,
Yeah.
he's not trying to be like create like really thought provoking art. He knows that his
I
films
think
are.
some of them have. I think one that's not talked about enough in that regard is Inglourious Bastards. I think there's more going on there than people might
Yeah.
give it
Yeah.
credit for.
That's true. Well, it kind of feels like two films really in a way because you've got the kind of like historically accurate and like period kind of setting, but then a lot of it's quite straight, like like the opening scene and stuff. But then you get these moments of like when they're
Brad
doing the
Pitt.
Italian accents
Yeah.
where it's just like funny,
Yeah.
silly stuff. So it's
Well, I think that's why it's one of his best. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I do have respect for him, so it'd be weird when he kind of... Well, if he does ever fully go away. I don't
Yeah.
think he will, like we said, but
yeah.
yeah.
I doubt that. A man like that isn't just going to shut up.
Yeah.
No,
Well, anyway, I think that probably has brought us to a conclusion of all our topics today. We'll be back next time talking about some film, I'm sure.
Presumably.
Yeah. We got a few more topics lined up, so we'll get to them at some point. And take it easy.